Hi, Tampa Native Show fans. Mario Nunez here. Guess what? It's your Thursday, 7 o'clock edition of the Tampa Native Show, and tonight's show is going to be spectacular. Do you remember all those wild and crazy stories we heard about those wild and crazy people that used to live in and around our neighborhood? Well, today they're referred to as urban legends. And tonight on the Tampa Native Show, we're going to be discussing some of Tampa's more famous urban legends. So grab the popcorn, call your friends. It's 7 o'clock Thursday night, and the Tampa Native Show starts right now.
Otra vez. Come here. Let me say something. I remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TBCN, the home of the Tampa Native Show. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella.
She remembers me.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this, your Thursday night edition of the Tampa Native Show. Wow, we got a show for you tonight. We do. As always, seated alongside my broadcast partner, Steve Canella and Sally Nunez, whom we will also call tonight Tampa Steve and the 15-Minute Girl. I'm Mario Nunez. Welcome to this, our Thursday night edition of the Tampa Native Show. If you're just joining us this week for the very first time, welcome. Welcome to our weekly celebration of growing up in Tampa. The only show of its kind, Steve?
Anywhere.
Anywhere
really.
in the world. And that means anywhere. Even though we've had fans tell us they've been able to watch us from as far away as Abu Dhabi, which I think is fascinating.
That's amazing. It really is.
Darling,
It's pretty cool.
no other show like this anywhere.
No, absolutely.
Isn't that exciting?
Not. It is exciting.
So
It's very unique, isn't it?
Well, it is unique. And we'd like to thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our fans who continue to follow us and help us grow what we are, I guess, considering to be the Tampa Native Show brand. It's getting bigger and better all the time. And we've got some new T-shirts that we're going to be previewing here very soon. We've got lots of good things happening on the show going forward into 2014. Let me also say that tonight's topic is one that has been, well, sort of on our minds for the last 2 or 3 weeks here on the show. We've kind of been teasing, been doing our research on one particular gentleman in Tampa who a lot of you expressed interest in knowing more about. We've got the full story here tonight. Steve, it's going to be good.
That's going to be
And we've got some
interesting.
pictures as well. Steve, you did some research this week on our Tampa Natives Facebook page.
Right.
And you went back into the archives. And how many articles or comments did you pull
Well,
up?
that's interesting. It was actually on the forums on the Tampa Natives Facebook page, and these go back actually 2 or 3 years. And there's over 300 topics, by the way.
Wow.
It's very fascinating. There's
check
one
that
topic. Oh, it's really interesting. There's one topic called Tampa Myths and Urban Legends, and there must have been about, well, right here we have about 3 pages worth of
comments.
Wow.
of Tampa Legends and urban legends and Tampa Myths, and it's really, really fascinating. If we get some time tonight, we're going to read some of these.
Great.
But whether it's the Warlock that lived in Pasco County, that's one example. There's also, I think there's a haunted mansion. I think the Bigelow Mansion on Bayshore and Beta Bay.
The trolls that lived
The
out in
trolls,
Citrus Park
right,
back in the day.
And there's so many. We have our own personal
Yes, we
urban
do.
legends that
Yes,
we're
we
going to
do.
talk about from our own neighborhoods too. So that'll be soon. And in fact, we should start that off pretty soon. Do you have some announcements to make at the
I
beginning?
do. I want to
Okay.
just bring up real quick, and I'll go ahead and put on my my readers, so that my cheaters, as it were, so that we can get to these just up at the top. Listen, first and foremost, I see your pictures there, Steve. I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, is that picture number 1 up in the upper left-hand corner?
That is.
Let's go ahead and pull up picture number 1, Beck, and we'll talk a little bit about the gentleman whose name is familiar to Tampa Native Show fans. Trained our current producer and technical director, Becky Yata. Gentleman's name is Eric Cups. Well, Eric got a little bit too big for his britches here on the Tampa Native Show. He grew out of his role here, and of course they bypassed his pay grade. So he started his own production company, and we are so pleased. I mean, listen, and we were here the night that he came into the studio, made the announcement. He said, guys, you have inspired me. I want you to remember that night, Steve?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
He said, I just want you guys to know something. Since I've been working on your show, you have inspired me to go out and build my own business and get going and start doing some productions of my own. Well, he's trained and he's very professional, and he's blogged many hours at the University of South Florida. He also does the Rays games. That's Cups Productions right there.
He's all over the
Pretty
place.
He went out of his
impressive,
way
that
and he
truck.
bought himself a news van. So what I told him we would do is we'll partner with him, the Tampa Native Show and Cups Productions, and we're going to start rolling up on crime scenes and doing interviews.
Oh, my.
And so if you thought Anchorman was funny, wait till you see
will be
some of this
different.
stuff.
Watch out, Tampa.
And you know what? I love his slogan, live, local, and mobile. That sounds like me. I'm
Yes.
live, local, and
And
I'm
very
mobile.
mobile.
We're all
And very
live,
mobile.
local, and mobile.
So to Eric Cups, congratulations, my man, on starting
Yes.
your new business. We are super proud of you.
We're happy for
And
you.
I said that
Congratulations.
tongue-in-cheek about rolling up on crime scenes and so forth. We can't do that really
No,
without proper
that-
credentials.
that would never
However,
work.
we are going to be partnering together and coming out to perhaps businesses or events in the area and doing some B-roll, coming back in and showing all of that work
That'll
to
be
you.
fun.
And Eric is available for hire, so I'm just
Yes,
saying,
he
Steve,
is.
all I'm saying
know?
is he's
Yeah.
available for hire. That's all I'm saying.
That's good.
All right.
That's good to know.
And there may be a chance that he could come in tonight. Rumor has it that he
Oh,
might
wow.
pop in here tonight to say hello.
Wow.
Also, let me just say, do you have any graphic for the South Tampa Survivors event this
You know, I don't
weekend?
have a graphic for that, but we can certainly talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about it
sure.
because this is the 5th annual South Tampa Survivors Summer
Blowout.
Stock Festival. And down there at American Legion Hall, West Prescott, 5535 West Prescott, all the way on the end of Prescott, which is south of Gandy.
Way down.
Just
All the way
past
to
the
the water.
railroad tracks, yep.
Yeah.
And it dead ends, Prescott dead ends, it's right there on the water. What a great location for an American Legion
is.
Post 138 Hall. 4 bands. I think admission price is $10 at the door to get in. They'll
That's
have
reasonable.
libations. They'll have food trucks and 4 different live bands. It's from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night, darling? No, 10.
2 to 10.
2 to 10, 8-hour shift, 2 to 10. Your Tampa Native Show crew will be there in person wearing those Tampa Native shirts.
And they know how to
looking good.
have a good time, don't they?
So come on down and support. You know, I'm just saying, you can support a good cause because it is a good cause.
It is a good
South
cause.
Tampa Survivors.
Great music. It's
These
fun.
are our friends that went to Robinson and Plant a few of them on the northern borders.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, the Tampa Natives teams group on Facebook started about the same time that the South Tampa Survivors
They
started.
did. Yeah.
That's our
Well,
sister. That's
yeah,
our
it's our
sister
sister
club.
group,
You know how
I'd
you had
say.
the Optimates, and then you had the
Kiwanettes.
and you had the
There
Key
you
Club
go.
and the Kiwanettes, right?
There you go, exactly,
And you had the
exactly.
Optimists and the Optimettes. Well, I don't know which one's going to be the Optimettes, but I'm telling you it's not going to be that.
Not us.
But our South Tampa Survivor family, congratulations again. 5 years and growing
Yep.
each and every year. Proud of you guys.
It gets
and,
better every year, too.
and proud to know you as well. All right, Friday night. Check this one out. Friday night. Is it Friday night? I digress.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure of anything. Saturday, Atlanta Rhythm Section is playing
Ooh,
in Clearwater,
really?
okay? At
Okay.
an outdoor
Yes.
festival there.
Yeah.
And our dear friend and frequenter of the King Corona's Cigars and Cafe in Ybor City and frequent guest here as well is Rodney Justo.
That's right.
The voice of Atlanta Rhythm Section is going to be playing in that afternoon at that wonderful outdoor festival. Atlanta Rhythm Section
One of
will
my
be
favorite
there.
groups.
Okay? And that night, I got to see this happen. And that night, Rodney is going to take his semi-tired pipes with him over to Skipper's. And at 9 o'clock, he's going to be playing at Skipper's with Cuckoo Kachoo. Good luck, Rodney. We're pulling for you, pal.
that's
And
a
we're going
lot
to be
of
there to
singing.
support you as well. It's a whole lot of singing.
Yeah.
So, if you're in the neighborhood, Stevie, stop by. I'm
We
talking
have
to
to.
you.
Oh, no, I know.
Skipper's 9 o'clock. Why wouldn't you be there? One more thing
reason
before we
why.
get to the meat of the show at about 9 minutes past the hour. Darling, if I
Yes.
were to say to you Bollywood, what would that mean?
There's a big festival going on for celebration of everything movies from India.
Exactly.
And they call it Bollywood, and it's going to be full of color and dance and fun and
And pomp and circumstance
Yeah.
and pageantry, and
Yeah.
it's happening when?
This weekend.
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
The festivities, the early festivities culminating, I believe, on Sunday with the awards.
I think it started last night.
Last night, exactly, with sort of an opening ceremony, and then they have the awards. And this is the.
It's a big deal.
All right, let me phrase this properly. The movie industry from the country of India, this is their Oscar night.
Yeah.
Oscars at the movies,
Right here.
Indian style. So I'm just saying, it's happening, and it's right here, right now. So
That's cool.
We bring this up because we're pleased because we have a lot of Indian friends.
We do.
We have a
We
lot
love
of
them.
dear Indian
We
friends.
do.
So this is a proud moment. This is a huge, super big thing. Now to that, let me just throw this in there. For those of you that are Tampa natives, as you go about, spread some of that good Tampa natives cheer and let these people know that, this is a nice place and we'd love them to come back, just so long as they can remember it's Tampa and not Tampa Bay. Okay, I'm just saying, I want to throw it out there. Represent Tampa natives. I had somebody today at the Publix stop me and ask me, I was wearing my Tampa native shirt, Stevie, I'm good, I've got my groceries. No, actually, I'm going in,
We
he's
were
coming
going
out.
into
Yeah,
the
I'm going in,
store.
he's coming out.
Yeah.
And he sees my shirt and he says, Tampa natives? I didn't even know there was any of you. And I looked at him and I said, man, you know why? Because you ain't one of us.
That's funny.
Now get in your car and go on down the road, man. I don't want to hear that
That's
stuff.
hilarious.
But you know what I mean? So
Not
Tampa
really.
natives represent. Just represent, man. Be
Yeah.
proud of who you are. Be proud of our history and our heritage. Because let me tell you, Steve and I and Sally were talking today, and I'm not sure this won't happen in the next 6 months to a year if we can figure out the logistics on this program. But we talk about it all the time on the Tampa Natives Show. And I'm going to tell you right now, when we grew up here in Tampa, either you were somebody's cousin,
Or you were some
Or you
cousin.
knew somebody's cousin.
or you was a cousin. Let me take it from the top, man. Either you knew somebody's cousin, you were somebody's cousin, and you had to be careful who you were kissing on because they might just be your cousin. To that extent, let me just say, I would be very curious to know if we got a core group, say 100 to 200 people, that knew they were direct lineage to those people that came from Santo Stefano, to those people that came from La Habana, Cuba, to those people that came from Las Asturias in España. If we could do a DNA swab and just find out how many of
who's
us
related to
Are
who?
really related.
are really blood related,
Really
because
good.
it's part of the
Interesting.
same, of course.
Yeah, that could be.
I mean, we had this thing all to ourselves from 1890, 1895 to about 1980. I think things changed dramatically with the Sandy Friedman administration
Yes.
in Tampa, the next great city.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden, Tampa became the next not so great city because it just blew up. But before 1980, that's all we talk about here on the show, and sometimes a little bit later.
Right.
Before 1980, we had this all to ourselves. So it surprises nobody if we were to do a DNA type scientific study, see how many of us are related.
I would
agree.
like to do that just for myself.
So if anybody out there
I
knows
doubt
how we
if I'm
might be
related
able
to
to do
anybody
that, the
here.
logistics, I don't have a clue. But if anybody out there works in the medical profession or in the research profession, somebody can direct us to how to get that done.
Well, they're offering
I
it
bet you-
through the genealogy site.
Well,
That-
and
USF?
somebody here locally. If somebody
Oh,
here
USF?
locally has a contact where because I'm an old school guy, I like to pick up the phone and go, hey man, look at the
Oh,
cord.
he
Look at the
certainly
cord
is.
here. There's no cord. Look at this cord. So, I'm that guy. I'd like to talk to somebody. But if it's not local, I have to go call Washington or New York, whatever. Let us know. We'd love to do that.
That'd be very interesting.
You may be onto something, cousin.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, you know what? I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this before we get
Please.
started. Another thing happening this weekend, this Saturday, actually Saturday and Sunday, and we've done this before the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes, we have.
The Historic Homes Workshop, and this is presented by Old School and Window Makeover to benefit the Tampa Preservation, Inc. And this will be Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4:30. There'll be informational sessions all about woodworking, how to replace cracked plaster on your house or windows. Also Sunday, there'll be hands-on type sessions as well. So any information you want to know about that, and by the way, it's going to be at 1706 West Cypress Street, Saturday and Sunday. Any information you want to know, you can either email us at goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com or call Jaye, and she'll take your calls at 813-404-6498. Historic Homes Workshop, very, very informative.
And that information will be up on our Tampa Native Show Facebook page. I know it was
It
a lot
will.
to,
Yeah.
it was a lot to take down there, but we just want to make sure to mention that because they do such great work.
They do.
They teach craftsmen working together, teaching other
Right.
individuals how to be better craftsmen so that they can do the repairs on these wonderful
Old homes.
historic
Yeah.
homes that we have here
right.
in Tampa, which are a part of the fabric of our identity, which is what we were talking
It's so
about
true.
a minute ago.
It's so true. And Ronnie Vila will be
we
there,
like
too.
to, and Ron Vila will be there. So we
Yep.
like to support them any chance we get, and good work that they do.
Right.
Okay, we're going to save the best for last, but we're going to start by telling you a little bit about urban legends in our neighborhood. But we know that a lot of you out there, and we already have a caller, Stevie. We know that a lot of you out there I have been inquiring about a gentleman, and I'll say his name once the way everybody has been referring to him as, because I promised myself once I found out the story that I wouldn't do it again.
Right.
But he was referred to in Ybor City as Pepe Lubabo, which is kind of a
derogatory.
It's a derogatory. It's not an
No.
affectionate name whatsoever, nickname whatsoever, moniker. And we have the definitive answer to who Pepe was, and we're going to share that with you in just a little bit as we get going through the show. I'm wondering if we should maybe say that again. Oh, say that again? No, I have to say that again. I've got my earpiece here. We're going to go ahead and take this call because she has been waiting for just a couple minutes. When we come back on the backside, then we'll tell you each our respective little stories with urban legends, myths, and that's what they are really, Steve.
They are.
I mean,
Stories.
they're stories. And
Some
sometimes
true, some are not true.
That's right. Sometimes it's fable. Sometimes it's wives' tale. Sometimes it's been going on for so long that you just
don't
accepted
know.
it
Right.
as
It's
the
real.
truth.
Yeah.
But it's also culturally what makes growing up in Tampa
So true.
fascinating. We had this all to ourselves. Real quick, darling, why don't you go ahead and give them the phone number so they can get ready to call in.
Alrighty, that number is 813-920-2508.
Okay, darling, that's the comment line. Now give them the call-in line.
And the call-in line is 813-977-6800.
All right, if you call the comment line later and leave us a comment, that's okay.
That's for ordering T-shirts.
Correct. Thank you, darling. Nice recovery.
That was good.
But if you want to call us here tonight on the show, that's the number you need to call. Now, and look at the lines already lighting up. Urban legends, Tampa myths. Let's go to our caller on line 4. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Natives Show live. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Kimberly Cummings.
Hey.
I'm calling from Tampa.
Well, how
Hey,
are
Kimberly.
you, Miss Kimberly Cummings from Tampa? Now, I have an important question to ask. Maybe
Okay.
maybe she has, Steve. I don't know. Is this your first time calling?
This is my first time calling.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had an original first-time caller in a while, so I'm happy to be able to ring that bell for you.
I knew it would be one day for me.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And
calling,
thanks for
Kimberly.
making it tonight. We appreciate it.
How are you guys?
We're
Great.
doing great, sweetie. We're doing great. I know you've been talking to Steve,
Right,
and
right.
and he's got. I think he's got an image. Or you got an image, right, Steve?
Well,
You got a
not an
picture?
image of that.
Okay.
No.
But we want to hear your story because yours is unique. It's also one of the stories grounded in South Tampa, which, like Ybor City, has
Right.
the longest history and hence the opportunity to create these wonderful stories. Tell us your story.
Well, it's a short one, but I was born and raised in Tampa at the old St. Joseph's Hospital that doesn't exist anymore. And I moved away and came back. I was always drawn back to my hometown. And I became an esthetician and then a master esthetician, so I do facials. And I changed jobs to work at Faces of South Tampa, which is has taken over the Bigelow Mansion just about. There's a few offices downstairs left. And I always stayed in the carriage house. And when the Palaos wanted to move our offices upstairs about exactly 2.5 years ago, they asked me, do you want to come upstairs, or if you had the chance, would you want to stay here? And I said, well, I can never leave here. I was so grounded in that carriage house, which was the original carriage house, doctored up, obviously,
Wow.
to have all the bells and whistles
Sure.
of the 21st century office. But it's where the horses were brought through. In 1908,
Sure.
the Bigelow Mansion was
Wow.
built. And I was always so grounded in there. I never left for lunch. I left 2 times a year for lunch. I would bring my lunch every day and just stay kind of curled up and cuddled up in there. And I always felt the presence of somebody else in there.
No question.
Every time it rained, the walls wept.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So it was really an expensive thing. For
Sure,
Yeah.
because mold happens.
Yeah.
Mold happens in Florida. Gosh, that's
No, I mean, it kept
Weeping.
raining through the ceiling and through the side of the wall.
Oh, my.
They kept fixing it and repairing it, and I would call. I'd have to, hurry and unplug everything right during a facial. I would go, I am so sorry. Please relax, but I need to go unplug the music right now.
Oh, wow.
Because water is pouring
Cascading
through the
through.
windows
Yeah,
and the
cascading.
walls and the ceiling. So I just felt like there was a little girl that was in my room, and she liked being in there, and I always felt good things, but
Cool.
she obviously died maybe when it became Bayside Hospital. I don't know, but there was somebody that was left behind in there.
Well, we know that
That's a great story.
Tampa is replete with wonderful, wonderful stories. And we talked about it just before we took your call, that, you know, whether it's fable, whether it's fiction based on fact, whether it's fact, whether it's something that was conjured up by your abuela in the, you know, with a flashlight under her chin at midnight. And if you say it enough times to yourself, you kind of start to believe that story.
I've never told anyone.
And we captured it live here on the Tampa Native Show. That deserves another ring. Kim, thanks for calling us tonight. We really appreciate you giving us...
Mario,
Believe
I wish
number.
I could say go Rays because the game, I mean, I can say go Rays. I will say
Oh, they lost today. I know.
they were there. So I'm going to call Steve and Mario, and we're going to win, and that did not work.
No.
We got to get a
Next
Belita number.
time.
And listen, this road trip is not going to get any easier because they got Chicago and they got Boston and New York. So.
You know, but you and I, our hearts are there with them.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're going to be fine. Can we get your lucky Bolita number between 1 and 75?
11, always.
11.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for calling,
All right,
Kim.
God bless. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Talk to you
you.
soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. That's wonderful.
You know, that was one of the
Cummings.
stories on the Facebook forum, was the Bigelow
Never
Mansion.
heard of that one.
So there were several entries about that.
I went to school with
Yeah.
the Bigelow. I suppose they're
I
related.
would assume yes, because
I had
Tampa
no
again,
idea.
1908. And how cool though, you know, because
Yeah.
we forget there was a time in our history, like everywhere
Yeah.
else, before mechanized, motorized
They had horse and
transportation.
buggy.
Yeah.
You horse-drawn
Yeah.
carriage,
That's right.
horse and buggy, or you know, because Tampa was rather small, I guess the buggies were if you had the money for the coach or you had the money for, but you still had to have horses to get
right.
around.
That's right.
So
Wasn't that long
Obviously,
ago?
she didn't feel threatened either. It must have been a sweet presence
sweet
that was there
presence,
with
yeah.
her.
The spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take our next caller
Yeah,
on
let's do
line
it, let's do
5,
it.
and then I got to get to my urban legend and yours,
that's
and
right,
yours,
that's right.
and his and theirs. Caller, you're on the air live with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Jim Carney
Hey, Jim.
calling from the depths of South Tampa.
All right,
I
okay.
thought you were going to say from the depths of hell there.
Or
for a
something
minute.
else. I don't. HE double hockey sticks.
Talk about that urban legend that I've plugged a couple of times.
Okay.
I sent
can hear myself
toss
in
me
the
to
background.
Steve, who's ever got me.
Okay, we all got
We
you.
got you, but listen, turn down your TV. Turn down your TV because I can hear myself coming back at me.
Yeah, I know that rule.
Yeah, you do.
All right,
All right, here we go. Stretch, get stretched. Get
there we go.
ready. Settle
I
in.
needed to stretch.
All right, here we go.
Steve,
Steve.
Yes.
that email I sent you,
Yeah.
did
You
you
got it, right?
receive that?
You get it?
Got my Bolita number.
Oh, no, let me
All right,
look.
he's
Let me
going to
look.
check it now. We'll check it now. Did you have...
Oh, I got it now.
There you go. Do we need to read that before we get to your comment, or is it something that
No,
you can...
Steve can just comment on whatever he's processed out of that.
Okay.
It's a link to a Tribune article which can go up on the web.
Oh, that's going to take a
cool.
minute. Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
take a minute. Okay, we'll do that after the show. We'll do that right after the show.
Okay.
And it's about Charlie Wall's house,
I do see that.
which he was murdered in 55.
Correct?
2 books can teach you about Charlie Wall. One, The Dark Side by Paul Guzza.
Yes?
And
Who's
then before Santo Trafficante stabbed him in the back and somebody slit his throat with the doors locked, and he had a wall for protection. If you're going to be a Bolita and racket king in Tampa in the 20s, he had a concrete house in Ybor City that the article from the Tribune is about the historic house surviving because it's built of concrete, and if you want to go from the
Yeah, you had to have to protection. You got to hide behind the wall. And let me ask you, Jim.
shot into your house,
Yep.
you got to go concrete bunker to concrete
Bunker to bunker, because somebody's going to sneak in there and hit you with some on the head. And knock you.
Murdered in 55, and a great novel was written
All right.
by a guy who knew all about the reporting from 55 on the murders. I got a personal connection to this story because the piano man for one of the reporters ably covering this story,
Okay.
Charlie Wall's murder, in his home with his dogs there and the doors locked.
Yes, it's a mystery to this day. It's one of those unsolved mysteries on the police blotter. But I got to ask you a question, Jim, and I'll ask it until you listen to me.
I'm almost through.
Oh, okay.
Guy who played piano
Yes.
at all the dive bars downtown where my reporter friend hung out
Yes.
is Tony Kovac, the father of his eldest child, my first girlfriend.
Oh, wait a minute. That deserves a bell ring. Kathy Kovac is his daughter.
We worked with Tony
the Kovacs.
Kovac.
We worked with the Kovacs.
That's
for
amazing.
another story
Yeah, I
and
had
another
no
day.
idea.
Jim, do you understand now why I would be hesitant to swab the DNA with you, brother? Because I'll find out you're my long-lost cousin. I can't believe it. But listen, Tampa was too small back then. We all knew everybody. But the question I want to ask you, Jim.
Of different blood, but the same heart.
That's what I'm
There
saying.
you
One
go.
heartbeat. Tampa heartbeat. One heartbeat. Listen.
Well put.
Question for you. Does this fall into the category of urban legend or Tampa myth? I think it's got to go with legend, man, because this is fact, what you're talking about.
The title of tonight's show,
Urban legend.
Urban Legend.
There it is.
Correct.
All right, Jim.
Now, how did Charlie Wall get called? There are a lot of get killed, murdered.
But we don't want to go into that now.
Murdered?
Wait, Jim, we don't want to go into that now. That's for another show.
No,
That's.
about the governor of New Jersey. Why?
Don't make me cut you off.
How?
Listen, I will hang up on you,
Did
Jim.
he know?
I will hang up on
Oh.
you. Jim, listen.
We're gonna find
listen,
out.
Listen, that's for
that's a
another
different
show
show.
because we got a lot of ground to cover between now and then. But we appreciate it because you've given us another idea for another show.
Off myself and seating upon the host's request
All right.
so he can say something about his beautiful wife
Who's sitting next to me?
sitting next to you.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you,
Jim.
Jim.
Take my
39, right? Bolita number?
Speaking of Bolita, 39.
39.
happy days. 39. Goodbye.
Jim Carney.
Ciao.
Bye, Jim.
Ciao, Jim. We gave him a lot of time, bro.
We did.
We gave him a lot of time. Okay?
Where's the buzzer?
That's a good story.
No, it was a great
No,
story.
he
And
was-
Jim always has.
He always has
He
one
does,
call.
he does.
He does. He does.
And we are going to do that story. I mean, at some point in
contributions.
time, we'll have Scott Dietschy in here because we've already communicated with him, Cigar City Mafia, and we'll talk about that. But we want to have somebody here. We don't want to make it a conjecture or some kind of stories. We want to hear the facts from the guy who did the research, wrote the book. So Scott will be here to talk about
Hey, you know
that.
what? We got an email from Robin Subicow.
Oh, hey, Rob.
He was on our show recently. He
course.
says, he writes, thanks for mentioning Cuckoo Cachoo at Skippers. Don't forget we're giving out the new logo T-shirts to 10 Tampa native lucky winners that night.
Oh,
By super talented, handsome, and East Tampa legend Robin Subicow and humble. LOL.
attaboy, Rob.
Oh, you're humble, all right.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
We appreciate the offer, and you know we're going to be there. So absolutely, save us a place. Tampa Natives T-shirts being given away. They're beautiful. All right, let's give that phone number again, darling.
813-977-6800. Did I get it right this time?
Perfect. How many lines open?
They're all open.
Which is
And-
2. We have 2 lines open currently. So if you've got an urban legend, a Tampa myth you want to share with us, we'd
And
love to hear from you.
Dale Kimball, 56.
Okay.
And we have also Suzanne Hester, 28.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Tonight, what are we giving away, Stevie? We're giving away
It's,
a bottle of Joe and Sons
That's right.
olive oil.
200 milliliter.
Unbelievable.
It's
Infused
so good.
balsamic
It's so good.
vinegar. Steve, you want to give them that email address just in case
That
they need
email
to send
address,
you an email?
absolutely. It's goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com. Here it is on your screen. And also, be sure to go to the website, too. Not tonight, not right now, after the show, but tampanativeshow.com.
There you go.
Everything that you want to know about the show is right there.
But was afraid
And
to
more.
ask. All right. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, as we're waiting
Yeah,
for our next call, I'm
let's
going to
hear
talk a
about
little bit
this.
about, do I got to go first?
You're first.
No, we're
Because
sitting.
your picture's first.
Oh, it is?
So, yeah, we have to
Oh,
go,
I gotta go first.
chronology.
I don't
All
have a
right.
picture.
I got a big finish. Okay.
You
Urban
always have
legend.
a big
Urban
finish,
legend.
dear.
Urban legend. For those of you that know me, knew where I grew up on West Cass Street between Lois and Dale Mabry, Lois and Clark specifically, Lois and Dale Mabry, and 275 to the north and Kennedy to the south. That little plat there was known as Broadmoor Park when they platted out Tampa, the West End. Now it's referred to as North Bon Air. Don't even know what that means.
Ooh la la.
Kind of a French term. But anyway, as Steve would say. But anyway, what happened was we had a gentleman that lived down the street from us, about 5 doors down, Stevie. And there was a wooden church there. There was a wooden church for many, many years. As I was growing up, I noticed the wooden church, but, didn't think anything too much of it. There was a gentleman that lived in the building, in the edifice next to it, okay, which was a 2-car garage and an apartment above. And he was the caretaker of that property, actually owned that church, actually was the preacher in residence. And his name, as we knew him, was Brother Allen. That's all we knew. Or Yeager, which later would turn out to be his last name. Kind of sounds like a first name. Hey, Yeager. But what we knew about him was he was the preacher of that church, kind of kept to himself, kind of quiet, had these 2 real cool cars that he drove around, and his most redeeming quality was that across the street from my house, catty corner, was a big lot, double lot. Like 4 houses could have been on it. Like it was 55 yards wide by 80 yards, and we measured it 80 yards long. And he maintained it for us. He cut the grass with his big riding mower so we could always have a place to play. So we, you know, those of us in the neighborhood, we respected him, we appreciated him. He was kind of creepy a little bit, so we stayed away from him. But I never knew his story. So I did some research. And thanks to former neighbor, Sylvia Murray, formerly Sylvia Moresi, formerly Tati, she gave me a bunch of information I didn't know because she lived right across the street from him. I'd like to share it with you now. And for those of you that may have been my neighbors at that time, this is what we found out. The gentleman's full name was Caesar Allen Yeager. Caesar Allen Yeager. We knew him as Brother Allen or just Yeager simply. He was a neighborhood preacher of that old church, and he kept the field mowed for us. Now, this is what we found out. He was Syrian born, or of Syrian descendants, which made sense because he was really dark olive complected. And he worked for the Reverend Billy Graham back in the 1940s, late 40s and 50s, when Billy Graham was getting his start here in Tampa. Many of you might not remember that. Billy Graham started his preaching career.
I did not know that.
Right here in Tampa. He was a piano virtuoso, and that's how he got hooked up with Billy Graham, because at the revivals, he would play the piano for him. He had 3 grand pianos in his property, one in the church that was kind of up there where the altar would be in other churches. He had 1 parishioner. Her name was Gertrude, and we knew this because every Thursday, Gertrude came to the church in her old car to clean the church. She'd sweep it out and, you know, wipe down the furniture, and the only parishioner. He lived above again in that 2-car garage next door. At Christmas, he would come around selling Christmas cards, presumably to raise money. I remember this distinctly, for his church. He had a big German Shepherd we affectionately referred to as Wolfie, but we didn't mess with because he kept him chained up in the front to keep us off his property. He owned a couple of really, really, really cool cars, like from the 1940s. And he was quiet, mysterious, and rumored to have been affiliated with the Royal American shows somehow. Like maybe he drove the trucks for them to help them transport. I talked to Laura Settlemeyer. She couldn't verify that fact. That's the urban legend that was Brother Allen on West Cass Street from the late 1940s till he died sometime in the 80s. Stevie, what you got?
Well, you know what? We talked about it earlier, and I could not remember of a urban legend or a Tampa myth. So what I did, I called my friend today, from my childhood friend, Chris Frame. He lived right behind me growing up. And I said, hey, Chris, do you have, I know there's some urban legends or some Tampa myths that we experienced as children, and I said, I can't think of any. And he reminded me of 2 that I do remember now after talking to him. And one of them was, because we live near Sly in Armenia, not too far from Egypt Lake, and he mentioned that there was, we think it's a myth, sinkholes in Egypt Lake, where actually someone had, I think maybe more than one person had drowned in these sinkholes.
I heard something about sinkholes.
And,
maybe not in Egypt Lake, but
now
I heard
we
something
We certainly
about
have plenty of them.
Yeah, now the other one was, this was Laurie Park, which wasn't too far from our house either. But and I think we talked about this earlier. I think it may be verified. This is actually a fact, not a myth. But there was a time, I think it was in the early 70s, where somebody got into Laurie Park at night, the old Laurie Park, and I think with a bow and arrow, they shot or killed one of the seals or an alligator.
That's horrible.
And I think, Mario, you said that your relative worked there,
Yep,
and he
my Uncle
documented the
Skippy.
story?
My Uncle Skippy, and I remember him telling us about that, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, well, I
Don't you remember in the
that, yeah.
news? It was a huge deal because back then, I mean, this was Tampa. This was small Tampa.
You didn't
man.
do that.
You didn't do that.
No.
Somebody jumped the fence to go in and bow and arrow harpoon a seal that's in a, come on.
And you know, we have a picture of that too, by the way. Let's bring that up real quick. Not the actual
Oh, come
incident.
on, Steve. You're not going to show us a picture of a harpoon seal, are you?
Not at all.
For crying
There
out
it is.
loud.
But for those who want to remember the seal pool,
That's the seal
There
pool.
it is.
Remember
And you had to
that.
lean over, and
Yep.
it was very small. You could throw in the little fish, remember?
Poor thing.
And Stevie, you know what? Is that your urban legend?
that is, well, that's, yeah.
Oh, you had another one?
No, that was it.
Well, they're very good. They're very good.
And
That's
there's-
Lowry Park.
Oh, that's Laurie Park? No, that's right. That's
Did I
what,
confuse you?
No, that's where the that's where the story
Moving
took place.
right along.
No, that's Lowry Park.
What did I say?
No, you said it right.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that's it. Now, hey, speaking of holes, remember the causeway?
I was. Were you?
Do you remember?
I didn't.
That was a segue.
That's a.
Yeah. Well,
That's one of the
well,
funniest.
sinkholes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's one of the funniest things
Well, the
I think
cause-
you've ever said
No.
on the show in 4 years. And speaking of holes, I don't know.
Okay.
No, I remember
Back
as a
to
kid.
Steve.
I remember as a kid driving down the causeway, and you see people out there fishing or crabbing with nets.
Yes.
And I remember my
Step into one.
father saying, yeah, there were holes there where people have drowned, where they stepped off into the hole, and for whatever reason
Got
drowned.
stuck or something? It couldn't be
I don't know. I think they just kind
Dropped
of
down.
Oh, it was
maybe
that far.
maybe
Oh,
panicked
it
and
was
drowned,
deep.
because
Huh.
it was a deep hole, and that was like not too far offshore either from the causeway. But
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not, or if that's just another myth or legend.
And
so.
if I might, Stevie, because I only remembered after you, and those are two very good ones. Lines are now open, 813-977-6800. If you've got a story about that creep that lived at the end of the block, or that crazy lady that you knew you didn't go to her house at Halloween because, that's one of those urban legends. Maybe she wasn't even crazy. Maybe the house was dark, or maybe she was just a
It was
shut-in.
just people
Yeah.
thought that.
And people just,
I think that happened a lot.
sort of like Pepe. Sort of like
That's
Pepe,
true.
the story gets away from you. What I was going to say is, Becky, if you could bring up that picture, I had a picture to go with my story too.
You did.
But my IT department guy, he didn't tell me nothing about that. Remember the picture?
The picture is
Go
yes,
for it, Steve.
It is
because I want
numbered.
to show. I want to show the viewers at home
Right,
that this is actually the best we could do. I didn't have any pictures of the church.
There
but
it is.
If
Yeah,
you
it
look
came
at
out
that
not too
picture,
bad.
I'm running a pass pattern there, and apparently I'm
That's not part
covered
of the
like a
story.
blanket by my good buddy Lou Garcia. I'm covered like a blanket. But if you can see in the back distance there, that structure that is
The
blue and green roofed,
Yeah.
that is the church. And next to the church, you can't see it here, next to it was the two-story structure where he lived. But that is the church. It was rather large. It took up, it probably had seating for 100
Interesting
people.
that he only had one parishioner. And why was he trying to raise money for the church?
I don't know.
within-
Listen, that's why
weird.
he's an urban legend.
That is very
That's why
weird.
he's the stuff of mythology. Because we don't really know. We don't know. But, he was a quiet man. We kind of kept our distance from him as kids because obviously he's a grown man. So,
Yeah.
But Sylvia told a story, little bit of a different story, because she actually took piano lessons from him from the time she was 5 years old.
Really?
And Sylvia became a very accomplished piano player too as a young lady, as a 14, 15-year-old girl. But I never really kind of put two and two together. I just thought she was taking piano lessons somewhere else. Turns out she was taking them from him.
Wow.
Turns out he was a virtuoso himself.
That's a cool story.
Who knew that?
Yeah.
All we knew was he was the guy that we would wave at him and say, "Thank you, mister, for cutting the grass on this immense field right across the street from my house so we could play every day." Darling, what do you got?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I have two actually. The one that I remember most because it affected me personally was Weeden Island. The story that was told to me was there was an old man that lived in an old two-story wood frame house on Weeden Island, and if you went by there at night, he would open the window and try to shoot you with his shotgun. So I didn't know any of this until my girlfriends, actually took me out there one night to show me this neat stuff out there. We're just going to take you out there. So we're walking, and the house was pretty far ways from the street, so we're walking back and back and back. And all of a sudden, my girlfriends who are behind me are yelling at me, "Oh my God, the old man, he's got a gun, he's got his gun, run!" And scared the crap out of me. So that's one urban legend. And the other one is that the Britton Plaza Theater, which I frequented as a child, is reported to be haunted. So that's it.
So you're getting a feel for it, right? You're getting a feel for it because things that are haunted, Steve, things that are of the occult, supernatural, they're are they real? Are they imagined? They kind of go into that gray area
Yeah.
of speculative. Did it really happen?
Nobody
Is
really
it a
knows.
myth? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So the girl's yelling, "Run, run! He's got a gun!" You don't know. You're just gonna
I
run.
don't know. Yeah.
Did he have a gun? Were they setting her
Yeah.
up the whole time? We don't know.
Was there a man there at all? Who knows?
But if we hear the stories enough times, certainly they resonate to the point of slipping from fiction
Yeah.
into fact. Do you want to read a quick, while we qualify that next caller?
Yeah,
do you
let's
want
do
to
that.
read,
Yeah,
read that one that you were telling me, and I'm going to read another one as well.
This is interesting, too. A lot of people remember this. This was from Catherine Bingham. She writes, does anyone remember the old cat man that sailed around in his boat with all the cats on it? He would sail around into Davis Island area near Tampa General Hospital. He would not speak to anyone. like a recluse, but had so many cats on his boat, and all were black. I have somewhere in boxes packed away of this. It was really strange. So apparently this person has a photo of that, which would really be
I
cool
remember
to see.
that. Yeah.
Catherine, if you're out there watching,
Yeah.
please, we'd love to see that photograph.
Now-
In fact, if any of you are out there watching,
That would be interesting. And someone else did kind of
It was
correct
in
her,
the
though.
newspaper a couple times.
Holly Gook, she wrote, I watched him for hours. The cats were not all black. A good Halloween story, though. He would go and get leftovers for the cats. So a lot of people do remember this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
So-
no,
so
he
again,
was, he
Steve,
was definitely a person.
urban legend, Tampa myth.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Well, here's
What is that? You got to answer
oh,
the question. That was
oh,
a question.
I would say, I say legend.
Legend indeed.
Yeah,
it's a legend.
It's not. He
Yeah.
lived. It's not myth.
Yeah.
He was
That's
there.
legend.
We
exactly.
all saw him.
It's easier than it. Don't overthink it.
I know.
Don't overthink it. It's just.
All right.
All right. You got another one? Let me read one.
Well, yeah, you have.
Go
we have
ahead.
a ton of them here.
Let me see. I'll read one real quick. We got 2 callers. Now, great.
Look at that.
And I can't. And the highlight of the evening. I can't forget that. All right. Let me.
Quickly.
All right,
we're
so
running out
speaking of
time.
Lou Garcia, Lou Garcia writes, he says, ditto, the trolls at the end of Cypress Street. I graduated from Jefferson class of 75, and this was an urban myth, was buzzing around JHS for several years. One day, a friend and I ventured out there, parking the car about a half a block away, walking the rest away in the cover of darkness. There was an old rundown homestead, kind of sounds like your story too, old rundown homestead, just the stuff of trolls. As we approached the broken down fence, some big dogs started barking. They saw these dark figures, Dobermans, maybe red eyes, etc. He's going on, running towards us, tied to chains. A man came out of the house. Could it be a troll? Hell nah, just some old guy cussing us out, telling us to get off his property. So you see,
But a good
Tampa
story,
myth,
though.
but there was actually somebody there.
That's funny.
All right, let's go to caller. I believe 4 has been waiting the longest. Do not let me forget. Keep me on time. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Dale Kimball, Lutz, Florida.
Hey, Dale, what do
Hi,
you
Dale.
know, man? Tell us your story.
Well, I think Steve was talking about those holes out in the water over there, Ben T. Davis beach.
I'm gonna say, Dale, that's what I heard too.
Right.
But
right.
but the closest body of water to where Steve grew up was that
that Egypt Lake.
Was Egypt Lake.
Right.
So I think his father just wanted to put the fear of God in him and say, look, man, don't
go
go
out
out there because you might sit in the hole, you might sink in a hole.
Well, I've got a lot of noise in my house, so I couldn't hear it perfectly. But over at the Ben T. Davis Beach, which we affectionately called the armpit of Tampa Bay, there was some holes out a ways out in the water, that were there. And I'll never forget the time. This is a legend in my own mind. And the fact that Jay Robinson, God rest his soul, a neighbor down there in Sunset Park, he was out treading water
Oh, no.
out there around those holes. And what happened with me is I said, hey, Jay, you standing up? And he says, oh, yeah, I'm standing up. So I started kind of walking out there. And the next thing I know, I went down in one of those holes.
Wow.
And the next thing you know, they grabbed me and pulled me out of there. They didn't have to do any CPR or anything like that, but it was a scary.
Scary.
Yeah, I
Wow.
can imagine.
Yeah, no, I remember the
That
Ben
would not
T.
be a good
Davis.
feeling.
I remember that distinctly, exactly, and perfectly like it was yesterday. You're absolutely right. And it was scary. So it was something that, when your dad told you that,
It was true.
He was trying to be, hey, man,
Yeah.
be careful because
Yeah.
what happens is you just drop off and you go deep,
Right. And then you get
And you get
confused and-
disoriented
right,
and you
right.
freak out, you swallow a gasp of water, All right, brother, do we have your number?
Yes.
Yes,
We do.
56. And I want to let you know that there's a guest that you've got to have on.
Okay, I'll write that down.
Senior Lawrence Higgins.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
the Pope of West Tampa?
That's right.
Just Tampa.
Steve has been asking for him for how long now, Steve? Steve wants to confess.
Yeah.
Steve wants to say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. No, absolutely. We are,
Yeah.
listen, but it's not as easy as you think to get him on
No.
Senior to break on a Thursday night from his routine and his schedule to come in. But point taken, that man knows all the
He knows,
stories.
He knows a lot of stories.
But we don't know if he's telling them or not. That's the only problem. Hey, Dale, thanks for calling.
God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Dale.
Thanks.
Well, gentlemen, we are at the 15-minute mark.
Wow.
Wow,
How
a
did that happen?
15-minute
That's
girl got us
amazing.
again. I'm going to take this next caller right quick, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put the cherry on the sundae. We're going
Yes.
to tell everybody about Pepe
And we have a
in
picture.
Ybor City. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Natives Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Emilio Garcia,
Hey.
Florida.
Wow.
There he is. Hey,
Emilio.
Emilio.
I was calling just to say hello, and in reference to the person who called in about Charlie Wall,
Yes.
I was attending George Washington Junior High,
Okay.
April 1955. Me and my friend jumped on the bicycles
and we were there and watching when they put him in the wagon.
Wow.
Wow. Emilio, why didn't you have a camera that day?
Man, what is that, box camera?
You have to, with the big plates of glass, you got to
wasn't
carry
so
it on your
easy
bike.
back
It's
then.
way too much work. But at least you were there.
I wish I did, brother.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. At least you were there, so you have that image,
Yeah.
and you can tell us about it today. Wonderful. Give us your bolita number.
45.
45. Thank you, Emilio. Thanks for sharing that
Thank you.
story.
Thanks for calling, Emilio.
Yeah,
Nice to
call
hear
back
from
again.
you.
You've been a stranger.
Oh, I'm waiting on Pepe Lubabo.
Here it comes right now.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I should really get to this because I've got a little bit of something that I need to read. We need to show you an image in just a minute. But let me just say for the record, this is how we got drawn into the story. 3 weeks ago, last month.
Okay.
Hello. March, the third Wednesday of the month, Sally and I had the opportunity to go play bingo with Las Damas del Centro, Asturiano. And while I was up there saying my hellos to the group and the ladies, one of them pulled me aside and said, hey, actually she just yelled at me right in the middle of my presentation. Hey, do you know Pepe Lubabo?
Yeah.
And I really didn't know what that meant, but I thought she was making fun of me. So, I thought I had my first heckler, and I just stood up there to tell the story.
Heckler?
Well, I didn't know. But then somebody actually came to me afterwards and said, no, it's a real story about a man who lived in Ybor City, and he used to sweep the stores, and he used to make believe he was a bolitero, and he'd go into the stores with a notepad, and he'd write gibberish on the notepad, but can you find out who he is? So I said, well, I'll try. So the next week on the show, we activated the phone tree. We made the request. We actually got a call that night from Richard Medulla.
We did?
Richard called in, and he said, that night on the show, he said, here's what I know. So he gave us another big chunk of clay that we could start to mold and fashion into a story. And then this last month, just 2 weeks ago, I went back for more punishment.
We went back.
We went back for more punishment at El Centro with Las Damas because we didn't win in bingo the first time. We wanted to win our money back. And I made another presentation thanking the ladies for having me back. And a woman comes up to me and says, I know the Pepe Lubabo story. I'm related to him. The world opened up. So we went and sat at another table after we finished losing the rest of our money. And then we talked and we took some notes, and we've been talking to her ever since. She sent us an image. I have the story right here. I'm going to read to you. Bear with me. But I want to say thank you, Martha Marty, as we know her, Martha Marty Crespo Benitez, who sent us this wonderful story as well as the image. And let's wait till I get through the text, and then we'll bring up the image. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's build the suspense a little bit on this one. All right. Bear with me, y'all. It says, here is a picture of Pepe Frisco. Frisco, as in San Francisco, taken sometime in the 1960s or 70s. I appreciate your dedicating the airtime to speak of Pepe, who was a very industrious individual and did all the good he could in Ybor City, in and around Ybor City. Pepe was born Pietro Frisco and lived with his mother Rosa Frisco and eventually 6 other siblings. His father built the family home at 1309 East 23rd Avenue in 1920 with enough rooms to house everyone. Unfortunately, his dad died at a young age and died from stomach cancer and left Rosa, his mom, to tend to the family and put food on the table. As a young man, Pepe came down with spinal meningitis and survived, but not before it ravaged his brain, giving him epilepsy. To help his mother, whom he loved tremendously, he went to La Sétima to do odd jobs sweeping the sidewalks for store owners and getting paid with nickels, dimes, and quarters. This, plus the grocers who gave him produce, put the food for his entire family on the table each day. He was a very proud man who loved to show you his pay for the work he did each day. Because of the effects of meningitis and epilepsy, his mother did not want to send him to school because the other kids would have made fun of him. But Pepe, on his own, and with the instructions his mother gave him growing up, learned to speak 3 languages. He spoke Sicilian, English, and Spanish. In addition, he always carried a spiral stenographer's notebook with him, and in it he would do his accounting. But not the accounting you and I learned to do, but his own written language and accounting, which to you and I would look like a bunch of swirls and circles. He always knew when someone tried to cheat him, giving him less change, and that would upset him to no end, and a fight for his rightful amount, he goes on to say. We also know that Pepe would yell at the kids that would tease him, and he would do
taunt
it,
him.
and he would
Good
do
for
it,
Pepe.
do it in Sicilian exclusively. As Tampa grew and the population got larger, Ybor City's La Septima changed. The store owners came and went, and eventually Pepe could no longer get work. Things got complicated because of the epilepsy, and when he was having an episode, the police force would want to take him in as a drunk. Times definitely became different, and with that, more vehicles on the road. This very wonderful person who would not hurt a fly was made the subject of hateful names. So you can imagine they were driving by and teasing him and so forth. As his mother passed away, he stayed living with his sister Josephine Frisco, who was not married and lived in the family home. Eventually, Josephine married in life, late in life, and Pepe kept living in their family home and walking to La Septima as he always did, looking for work. However, times in the 1950s had become dangerous for a simple man to go afoot, and the time had come where he could no longer live unconfined. It was then that his sister and the court declared him incompetent, and they placed him in Arcadia, an institution of the times that handled persons with his disability. The family would visit him there. Eventually, he passed away at approximately in his late 60s or 70s. Everyone loved him and had nothing but good memories when speaking of Pepe. The family house was eventually left to the three sisters after their passing, Ida Frisco Garcia and Jenny Frisco Pernas. Those are the two sisters, until they could no longer live there because of their aging. The house still stands today. And then she has a disclaimer here, which I won't read to you. It's for us. It's a production disclaimer because we're going to show you his image now, and this image is only exclusively for the use on this show. That is from Marty Crespo Benitez. Thank you. Now let's pull up the image of Pepe. And while we see Pepe, there he is.
Hi, Pepe.
The urban legend himself, Pietro Pepe Frisco. I have to also say here, and I've got it in my notes, I'll read it here in just a sec. Well, I have it, and I'll find it, and I will find it. Stevie?
You know what? In talking to my Uncle Gene Canella,
Yes.
I
Add to the
discovered
story.
that we're related to Frisco's also, but I'm not sure if we're related to Pepe or not, Pietro.
Why doesn't that surprise me, Steve?
Tampa Steve, you're related to half of Tampa.
I know.
Also wanted to give the disclaimer here. Oh, here it is. It goes on to say, and you can bring this back in, or you can bring it in the two-shot there. Thank you. Marty Crespo Benitez, thank you for the information on Pepe. And this photo, that photo that you're seeing right there, this is what I wanted to read, was supplied by my cousin, Carol Bernardo Fernandez, who is the daughter of Pepe's sister, Rose Frisco Bernardo. So this is an urban legend. This is an urban legend. The man absolutely existed, and he did what he could to make the best of hard times with what he had. And that's, I think...
And did well.
And of course he did well because
himself and his
Tampa
mom.
at that time,
languages? That's quite a feat.
we rallied around each other. I'm sure the store
Yeah.
owners were generous when they could.
Yeah.
They gave him produce. They knew what he was up
Right,
to.
yeah.
And so you will never hear me refer to him as the
No.
Pepe,
No,
the
not
other
at all.
Pepe again, because I have a
Pietro.
newfound appreciation and love for the story. And besides, Pietro's kind of a cool name
It's a
too.
beautiful
It is.
name.
Yeah, Peter, actually.
He was from Santo Stefano. I think I mentioned that. I may have mentioned that. He was from the Santo Stefano, as were so many people in Tampa at that time.
Well, you know, the two people that I spoke to about it, and one being my uncle, the other being Frank Granda, who I used to work with at the brewery, they both said exactly the same thing, that he would sweep every day from 22nd Street all the way to Nebraska Avenue, both sides of the road. And basically, but he was, people would taunt him, and he would, defend himself, but he would never hold a grudge either. Just a real good person, and did great for what he had. He had a lot going for him, actually.
Yes, he provided for his mom, and did what he could.
Yeah.
And,
He sure did.
And industrious, and he showed up
And
for
good
work all
on
the time.
him for just getting out there and doing what he could do.
The
Exactly
takeaway-
right.
Commendable.
The takeaway for me, how much time do we have left, Becky? Don't let me go over.
He's very inspirational, really.
Yeah.
All right,
And
the
I have-
takeaway
yeah,
for me.
go ahead.
The takeaway for me on this story is this: Tampa is rich, rich with stories just like this one. And what we need to do is try to capture as many of them as we possibly can. So if you're sitting out there on one of these wonderful stories, as the Pietro Frisco story, we want to hear from you. Stevie, give them that email address so they can reach out to
Well,
us.
that email address is goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com, but we have one of those stories right here from Rodney Justo.
Oh,
It's
no.
real brief. Let me read it real
Please
quick.
do, because we got 3 minutes to
Yes,
go.
this is it's a real person. They didn't know his name. Rodney didn't know his name for sure, but they called him Nerto. Nerto. And I started going to Ybor City Boys Club. I was number 408, by the way. And Nerto was already there. In fact, he was probably in his mid-20s at the time, I'd say, because he already shaved a pretty thick beard. He could always be seen walking around with a transistor radio to his ear. Interestingly enough, I don't recall people picking on him, though. In fact, I remember people watching out for him, and including him in all of the points on. I specifically remember someone singing Babyface at a talent show and dedicating it to him. I'm sure they had many viewers. I'm sure there's many viewers that probably remember him.
Tell me his name again.
Nerto.
Just Nerto. That's all he's
Nerto.
got. Any RTO?
Well, he didn't know if it was Ernest or maybe Nelson.
Oh, Ernesto.
But it could be. But they called him Nerto.
Nerto.
For short.
Kind of sounds like it, right?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Great story.
Thank you, Roddy. Thanks for sending that in, and good luck this Friday night.
Friday night.
Friday night, right? Saturday.
Well,
no, Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday, because
Whether
it's
they're
Saturday
playing
day in
at
Clearwater,
Cuckoo.
Saturday night at Cuckoo.
There.
Good luck Saturday.
It's
We'll
all
see
on
you.
Saturday.
We'll see you. Do we have enough numbers to do a drawing, guys?
You know what? Also,
Did Rodney get a number? Because we're down to 2
I don't
minutes.
No.
No, we have Mike's Baluha, number 3.
Okay, Balua number 3.
Cindy Baluha, number 18.
Okay.
Rodney, I don't think he gave us a number. Can we give him one or not? Let's see.
Yeah, we're going to give him one.
Okay.
47 for
Okay.
Bolivar. Baby, give me the Bolivar balls next to you, and let's get this done.
Yeah, we have them all.
All right, here we go. Keep writing those numbers down, and Cindy was 18. Steve, you want to
Right.
do the honors tonight?
Yeah, why not?
All right, man. You know, you're a bit of an urban legend yourself.
Yeah.
Okay,
More
you
like a
said we
Tampa
were going to
man.
give
More-
somebody
yeah, there
a
you go.
Bolita number. Who
No,
was
fact.
it?
Rodney? Rodney
one?
Justo, 47.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
47.
13.
Lucky. Go ahead.
13.
13 is
Oh, you know who
blah, blah, blah,
what
blah.
happened to Skipper?
Kim Cummings.
Yeah.
First
for
time
real.
caller.
First time caller. Get it every time.
They always do that.
All right, Kim. Get over there to Joe and Son's Olive Oils, and I know you know.
She'll
'cause
love
you're
it there.
South Tampa girl, you know
probably
where that's
been-
located.
she's probably been there, yeah.
Right there on Beta Bay between Himes and McDill,
Yep.
on the north side of the road. Tell them the Tampa Natives Show sent you, and I'll let Andrea know to be on the lookout for you. That's some wonderful olive oil. 30
about that?
seconds.
Wow.
Oh, wow, the
It's a
show has
fast
gone
show.
by incredibly
Yeah.
fast. Let me just say, we had tonight answering our phones for us. PRP from the NYC. Pete, attaboy, did a great job. We appreciate it. And of course, Autry working our sound. And
Eric Cups
affecting
sitting in
Eric
there.
Cups
Yep.
making an appearance,
Thanks,
showing up. There's
Eric.
Eric. We're going to go down there and look at that news truck in a minute. Yes, we are. 5 seconds to go on behalf of the Tampa Natives Show. I'm Mario Nunez.
See you next week.
Tampa Steve, and salute and happy days.
Hello.
Back when we were younger and everything seemed new, we used to have a lot of fun, yes we did, no matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please, with love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. I'm a Tampa native, Tampa native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history.
All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Natives Show.